The Xarnathi cruiser, Bloodfang, hung in orbit like a scar on the skin of space. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of oil, heated metal, and the musk of a warrior species that had never known fear. Until now. Commander Elias Roarke sat quietly in his containment cell, wrists bound with an unnecessary force field, ankles shackled even though he made no attempt to move. He was thin, hunched slightly, his hair a shock of white and silver against the dull blue jumpsuit issued to prisoners. Deep lines creased his face like the rings of an old tree, each one earned. Across the chamber, young Xarnathi warriors gathered, large reptilian bipeds with scaled hides and jaws lined with serrated teeth. They were laughing, hissing guttural sounds that echoed off the steel walls. "He is broken," one said in galactic common, motioning with a claw. "Old and brittle. You captured this? This is your glory." Another chuckled, jabbing the air toward Elias. "Maybe he is some kind of pet. The humans do keep strange creatures." The old man remained silent. A third warrior, younger than the rest and eager to prove himself, stepped forward. His name was Vark, his hide still tinged with the green hue of adolescence. He slammed a clawed fist against the energy field surrounding Elias' cage. "Speak, meat. Are you frightened? Do you know what ship you are on?" Elias lifted his eyes. Pale gray. Calm. Bored. Loud for someone who's never fought anything smarter than a cow, he murmured. Vark snarled. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Elias replied. "You're predators, right? Strong. Sharp. Fast." He let the silence drag for a second. "But you mistake those things for dominance. You think they make you superior. That's your first mistake." The room fell quiet, tension crawling across the walls like frost. From behind the group, heavy footsteps echoed, measured and deliberate. The warriors stepped aside as General Shaktor entered. Taller than the others, his armor was etched with kill marks, one for each species his kind had conquered. His eyes were gold and unblinking. "Interesting," Shaktor said, regarding Elias with curiosity rather than contempt. "You are not like the others we captured." They screamed. They wept. "You mock." "I'm just telling the truth," Elias said, shifting slightly to relieve the ache in his back. "You're proud of being predators. That's fair, but you're forgetting something critical." Shaktor tilted his head. "And what is that, human?" Elias straightened as best he could in the shackles. His voice, though gravelly with age, cut through the air like a knife. "You are predators," he said, his gaze never wavering. "But we are ultimate predators." The words hung like smoke. For a moment, even the energy field seemed to hum with silence. Then, Shaktor barked a laugh, not amused but intrigued. "Explain." Elias looked at him and smiled for the first time. It was not a warm smile. "You kill with claw and fang. You stalk and tear and roar. We kill with fire, with poison, with radiation and vacuum and silence. We kill from orbit, from shadows, from ideas. You use your strength. We use everything." Vark growled. "He's just a weak old man." Elias didn't look away from Shaktor. "Then ask yourself this. Why hasn't he tried to escape?" The general's expression darkened slightly, but he said nothing. "I let myself be caught," Elias continued. "I want to see the inside of a Xarnathi ship. Want to see how it breathes. Smells. Fails." He tapped his temple. "My people are listening. They're watching. And they're learning." One of the warriors stepped back uneasily. Elias chuckled. "You think you've won, but you've only poked the nest. And when humans swarm, we don't fight. We exterminate." The cell's lights flickered for a fraction of a second, too brief for the Xarnathi to notice. But Elias noticed. He felt the tremor in the floor plating. The first seed had already taken root. He leaned back against the wall, closed his eyes, and smiled again. The interrogation chamber aboard the Bloodfang was made to break lesser beings, its design sterile, angular, and deliberately cold. The lights pulsed in a disorienting rhythm. The walls, polished to mirror-like sheen, reflected the prisoner's every movement, making it impossible to feel alone. But Commander Elias Roarke looked entirely at peace. He sat at a steel table, unshackled now, though under constant surveillance. Two guards flanked the door, claws resting on the grips of their plasma blades. They watched the human with barely masked discomfort. Across from him, General Shaktor sat in silence, studying the old man. Between them was a simple question. How much of what Elias had said was bluff, and how much was threat? "You are not like the others," Shaktor said at last. "No terror, no grief. You're not even angry." Elias scratched the white stubble on his chin and looked up. "Fear is for creatures who have no plan. I came here with one." Shaktor leaned forward. "You're no warrior. Not anymore. Your bones are brittle. You've been stripped of armor and weaponry. What plan could you possibly carry out?" The human chuckled. "That's your species' problem. You only recognize strength in muscle and blood. But there are other kinds. Stronger kinds." Shaktor narrowed his eyes. "You claim to be a predator greater than us. Yet you sit caged." Elias's voice dropped, quiet and cold. "Predators kill to feed, to survive, sometimes for territory, rarely for pleasure. But we," he pointed upward, as if toward Earth or the void beyond, "we kill for ideas." The general tilted his head. "Ideas, belief, principle, strategy." Elias's eyes glinted. "You enslave to control. We liberate to ignite. We can rally entire species with words, spark planetary revolutions with nothing more than a sentence, a symbol. That's not prey behavior, General. That's evolution." Shaktor tapped a clawed finger on the table. "You exaggerate. You are few. We are many. Our technology is superior." Elias smiled faintly. "Superior tech doesn't mean superior intelligence. You copied what you could from the first ships you conquered. You grow fast, take heart, but you don't innovate. You don't adapt. Your predator's locked in a single way of thinking." He leaned in, his gaze steady and unblinking. "Humans adapt constantly. You know how we won our own planet? We weren't the strongest. We weren't the fastest. Hell, we weren't even the most vicious. But we were the most relentless. We hunted in packs, outthought our prey, outlasted them. We learned how to kill things that should have killed us." Shaktor folded his arms. "Then explain your defeat." "Earth fell." Elias's smile faded into something colder. "Did it? Or did you walk into exactly what we wanted?" Silence. Then Elias spoke again, softer this time. "You ever wonder why you didn't find resistance centers? No major military counterattack? No nuclear strikes from orbit?" Shaktor said nothing. "That wasn't surrender. That was preparation. You don't strike at the hammer. You poison the hand that holds it." From a corner panel, a muted alarm pulsed for a half-second, quickly silenced. One of the guards stiffened. Elias noted it and continued. "While your kind preens in triumph, while you parade captured elders before your pups, we're already inside your systems. Not just me. Dozens of us. Hundreds. Spies. Saboteurs. Engineers. Not soldiers, planners. You focused on strength. We focused on weakness." Shaktor growled. "You lie." Elias stood slowly. He pressed his hands to the table and stared the alien general in the eye. "Tell me, have your outer ship comms been fully functional since yesterday? Has your reactor been operating at full capacity? Are your life support systems logging phantom anomalies?" Shaktor's eyes narrowed. Elias leaned in. "I don't have to win a fight, General. I just have to give the right information to the right people at the right time." A long silence stretched between them. Then Elias added softly, "And you gave me all the time I needed." Shaktor rose. The tension in the room could have sliced steel. He spoke to the guards without turning around. "Move him to secured quarters. Triple guard. No communication access." As the old man was led away, he didn't resist. He offered one last look over his shoulder. "You can lock the door," he said, "but you're already in the cage. You just don't know it yet." The new quarters weren't a cell, at least not by Xarnathi standards. It was a room with no corners, rounded edges meant to prevent climbing or hiding. A single cot, a fixed table, and 3 ceiling-mounted cameras followed Commander Elias Roarke's every move. He didn't mind. He had already finished his work. The lights dimmed every few hours to simulate a sleep cycle, but Elias barely closed his eyes. He sat cross-legged on the floor, breathing steadily, waiting, not with impatience but discipline. Patience was one of humanity's sharpest weapons. It was something predators like the Xarnathi had never needed to evolve. They attacked. Humans waited. And the seeds he'd planted were growing. Flashback. Earth, 6 weeks before capture. The mission was classified Omega Black, voluntary insertion into hostile territory via a falsified evac capture. Elias had volunteered without hesitation. "You're 71, Commander," said Admiral Kada. "This is a one-way mission. I'm not dying on Earth watching our people fall," Elias had replied. "Let me go where it counts." The Admiral paused. "Why you?" Elias smirked. "Because I'm old. Because they won't fear me." Present, aboard the Blood Fawn, small malfunctions began to accumulate. Not catastrophic, just irregular. Minor temperature fluctuations. Glitches in lighting sequences. Phantom subspace pings on the scanners. Elias had embedded the virus with a dental implant. It activated via a specific tongue movement, harmless on its own, unless done 3 times in sequence. He'd done it on the 2nd day of captivity. It was written in a hybrid code, old Terran malware merged with Xarnathi syntax from a captured vessel. The AI aboard Bloodfang couldn't recognize it as an attack. Not yet, but it was working. Down in the engine core, Engineer Kravlik scratched at his head crest in frustration. The core readouts blinked with irregular patterns, and coolant flow rates were fluctuating without cause. Diagnostics returned null. Elsewhere, training drones in the warrior pits began reacting slower, missing movement cues or locking in loops. Vark, the young warrior who had mocked Elias days earlier, threw one into the wall in anger. "Why are the machines failing?" he growled. No one had answers. In his room, Elias finally allowed himself a few hours of sleep. But it wasn't peaceful. Dreams came, not nightmares, but memories. Dust-choked battles in old Martian colonies. Jungle ambushes on Caldera 3. The sound of orbital bombardment over Europa. But always, at the end of the memory, came silence. The silence after victory. He awoke to shouting. 2 Xarnathi voices barked commands just outside his door, too fast for translation. The ship's lights flickered, longer this time. A low, grinding hum began somewhere in the walls. Elias stood and faced the door calmly. When it opened, General Shaktor stood there, flanked by guards, his composure fraying. "You have done something to my ship," he said coldly. Elias nodded. "Yes." The general's claws flexed, but he didn't strike. "Explain how." "You wouldn't understand it," Elias replied. "Your species builds like it hunts, direct, brutal, inflexible. We build like we think, in layers, in shadows." Shaktor stepped into the room. "You will fix it." Elias tilted his head. "Why would I do that?" "Because I will kill you if you don't." Elias took a slow breath. "Killing me won't stop what's already begun. But I'll tell you a secret. Killing me guarantees your fleet dies with you." He stepped closer, and for the first time, Shaktor seemed to hesitate. "You're not dealing with a soldier," Elias said. "You're dealing with an extinction protocol. My presence aboard this ship was engineered. Every second I've been here has been part of a clock counting down to your irrelevance." Behind Shaktor, a distant klaxon howled, one not triggered by drills. "Containment breach in Deck 9, came the AI voice. Another alarm, then another. Shaktor snarled orders at his guards, who rushed off. Elias moved to the viewport at the side of the chamber. Through it, he could see the distant glimmer of something massive emerging from subspace. It was not Xarnathi. It was human. He turned, calm as winter. "We're not prey," he said. "Where the storm predator's fear is coming." Red lights bathed the corridors of the Bloodfang in a hellish glow. Sirens wailed in alien tones, a chorus of panic echoing down the ship's spine. Bulkheads slammed shut. Atmospheric containment fields snapped on. Crew members shouted in confusion, their language devolving into snarls and guttural barks. Commander Elias Roarke stood alone in his secured chamber, watching the chaos unfold through the viewport. In the distance, the UHS Vindication had emerged from subspace like a leviathan of vengeance. A human dreadnought, angular, black, bristling with rail cannons and gravitic warheads. Its hull bore the markings of the Apex Fleet, Earth's elite strategic command, only ever deployed under one condition: total war. General Shaktor stormed through the bridge of the Bloodfang, fury in every stomp. "Target the enemy ship," he bellowed. "Launch torpedoes, full spread. Ready plasma coils." Subcommanders scrambled to obey. Tactical displays flickered and froze. A console burst into sparks. One of the gunnery officers hissed in confusion. "Weapon systems are not responding." Shaktor slammed a fist into the console. "Override." Another voice from engineering crackled over the comms. "Reactor core is being siphoned. Power levels are dropping. External intrusion suspected." Shaktor's eyes burned. The human. It was always the human. In the security bay, Elias stood calmly as the energy field of his door deactivated. A click followed, his shackles unlocking. No guards. No weapons. Just silence. Then the soft metallic pad of boots approaching. The door opened. A human stepped inside. Lieutenant Hannah Merrick, Black Ops, Apex Fleet. She saluted. "Commander Roarke, you're late." Elias smirked. Traffic was hell. She tossed him a sleek matte black datapad. He caught it one-handed. "Virus is active," she said. "You cracked their root systems perfectly. We've mapped half their fleet AI through this one ship. Fleet Command wants to move now." Elias tapped through the screen. "Systems, protocols, troop data, encryption codes, all exposed. Still running silent? Until your go code," Merrick confirmed. "You're still primary asset. Mission's yours to close." Elias looked around at the trembling ship, at the panicking crew, still unaware they'd already lost. "They laughed at me, Hannah," he said. "Mocked the gray in my hair. They thought I was a relic." She smiled faintly. "You're the reason they won't ever laugh again." Back on the bridge, the Bloodfang shook as an internal explosion rocked Deck 11. Fire suppression engaged but failed. Shaktor roared in rage, looking at the chaos around him, his warriors turning to panic. This was no longer a battlefield. It was a hunt, and they were the ones bleeding. The dreadnought outside held fire. It didn't need to shoot. Elias had turned the Bloodfang into a weapon against itself. In the main server bay, Elias and Merrick reached the core node, a pulsating alien heart of light and code. 2 keystrokes triggered the final override. A countdown began. 3 o'clock, 2:59, 2:58. "Command confirmation code?" the system asked in distorted galactic common. Elias spoke clearly. "We are the Apex." The core accepted. Outside the Bloodfang, the Vindication opened a wide beam channel. A message was broadcast across the Xarnathi fleet. Translated. "Clear. Final. You are predators. But we are ultimate predators." From orbit, the human fleet emerged. 9 warships, cloaked until now, surrounding the Xarnathi battle group. Every human vessel was positioned with surgical intent. Xarnathi ships began to spin, aimless, adrift. Their AIs were crashing. Power readings plummeted. Hulls vented plasma. Panic bloomed across their formations. And still, the humans hadn't fired a single shot. On the Bloodfang, as systems failed one by one, Shaktor stood alone on the bridge. The red lights dimmed. The warship groaned like a dying beast. And then, in the doorway behind him, Elias Roarke. No guards. No weapons. Just an old man with fire in his eyes. "You said you were predators," Elias said. "But real predators don't need to roar. They kill in silence. With intent. With intelligence." Shaktor turned, slow and heavy. "You kill my ship." Elias stepped closer. "No, you did. You underestimated the species that mastered fire, hunted in packs, and learned how to kill gods." A beat. Then Elias added, voice like a blade. "We're not Apex because we're violent. We're Apex because we're strategic." The Bloodfang's engines collapsed into themselves. Elias and Merrick had already evacuated. The core breached in on itself, folding space as it died. The dreadnoughts didn't fire. They didn't have to. The message was sent, and across the stars, other predators finally realized what hunted in the dark.